Hello, and welcome to the Prepare to Prosper podcast, where we prepare today to prosper tomorrow. And this is episode 9, and I can't believe it's been over 2 months already. We still got a whole bunch of other stuff on the agenda, so we're not going to quit anytime soon. But last week we talked about food storage. This week we're going to talk about shelter, and next week is security. And it's not going to just be about guns, guys. But last week being about food and this week being about shelter, those are the things you hear all the time. You gotta put food on the table and a roof over the head, over the family's head. So today we're gonna make sure we get the roof over the head part secure. So let's gonna start with everyday stuff. So we all have a house, or most of us. If you're watching this, you probably have a house. So things you gotta do to make sure your house is your best shelter by far. We will talk about other bug out bag type shelters and stuff as we go on today, but let's start with the biggest, most obvious one to start with: your house. So the first thing we need to do is go around and repair anything that needs repaired. And I'm not talking about cosmetic stuff. We should focus first on repairing anything that is structural or causes the house to be less efficient. So fixing leaky windows, fixing drafty doors, then worry about cosmetic stuff. If your wife's not 100% on board, mix in a few cosmetic stuff as you go to make her more happy. But as a general rule, we want to first focus on anything that increases efficiency and keeps the house warmer in the winter and cooler in the summer. And also make sure the house is in good repair so it doesn't fall over. And by focusing on those things, the house will be warmer, or it'll cost less to heat and cool the house, which means you'll save money and be able to use that for the cosmetic stuff, repairs, and upgrades. Also, you'll be able to upgrade to maybe a more efficient furnace. At first, you stop the leak where half your heating goes out the door. So, and with those upgrades, or once we start making some real upgrades, look at insulation, stuff like that. A lot of people are like, oh, I want to put solar on the roof, a more efficient furnace, and a wood stove, and blah, blah, blah. Well, first fix all the air leaks, or else your more efficient stoves, or your more efficient furnace is going to have to work harder. Fix the air leaks so your wood stove, you don't have to have as much wood for. Fix the air leaks so the solar panels running the air, you don't need as many solar panels to run the air conditioner to keep the house cool. Common sense kind of stuff. We also want to look for upgrades, any upgrades we want to make for the future. And we want to start saving for those upgrades now. Maybe we want to get rid of our asphalt roof and put on a metal roof because they last longer and they're easier to repair. If maybe you live in an area where that's not acceptable or that doesn't fit your lifestyle, don't do that. Stick with the asphalt roof. But either way, you should start saving to replace your roof. That's the most expensive maintenance thing for a house, and a lot of people that are lower income spectrum, they have a lot of problems when they need their roof repaired, and they may lose their house because they can't repair the roof. And people higher up and middle class and above, it's still a hardship sometimes, and that's an added bill that you have to add on. Maybe you want to buy a new car, but you can't buy a new car because you got the loan on the roof you got to repair or pay off first. I know people who are in that situation. So start a small savings account, throw in $20 a week, something like that, $50 a week, whatever suits your lifestyle. I'm not going to tell you exactly how to do it because I'm not you. And this is something me and Sarah are struggling to do, but we are trying to create that it's called a sinking fund. Create that sinking fund for doing major repairs of the house. Another thing is to inspect the house for any future things you may need, like how soon are you going to need the roof. If you don't know, there's lots of YouTube videos and websites that'll help you guess when your new roof is going to need repaired. I'm not very good at that, but you can look at your roof and say, hey, there's a lot of missing shingles and a lot of torn shingles. This and it looks worn and it's going to need to be repaired soon. Or my siding is starting to crack and have some issues. I need to get that fixed. Or there's a couple little small holes in the siding. I should fix those. Whatever it is, go through it, inspect your house, inside and out, look for anything that needs repaired. And then also start doing preventative maintenance on stuff. Drain your water heater. Change the anode in your water heater. Change your furnace filters. Look for any trees that need trimmed. Like the tree that's behind the camera right now outside, it seriously needs to be cut down. It's been horrible trying to find a tree guy that'll show up. And then, so, first tree guy completely flaked out. Second tree guy, we got an appointment for him. He was going to finally show up, but we had to postpone that because there was a big hornet's nest in the tree. We took care of the hornet's nest, and that evening, we saw a flying squirrel. Well, flying squirrels aren't very common around here, so we called up the DNR guy, and they're like, "Oh, you got a flying squirrel. They're not protected, or they're not endangered, but they're still like protected, threatened. Like they're not very common, so you should try to preserve them." So he said that we shouldn't cut down the tree until spring because the flying squirrel has his nest and all of his nuts and stuff hidden in the tree. We don't want to make him homeless before winter, so we should wait till spring to cut it down. And then we tried all summer to cut it down. Flaky tree guys again. Maybe this spring, which we should be calling tree guys right now and trying to set up an appointment to get that tree removed. But those kind of things. So that takes care of our house, that around us. We should also start storing some tarps, some painter's plastic, those kind of things. Because if we have a broken window or a damaged door or something like that, we could put up temporarily to block those off. And that's something we can store. They're light, they're cheap. We don't need the best tarps in the world for that. Dollar store tarps work great for that. Another thing dollar store tarps are good for is putting in the back of a minivan. So if you got to change a tire, you got something to kneel on or something like that. But also they come in handy for if you want to use your minivan to haul mulch or compost or something like that. You can throw it on top of the tarp and you don't get the inside of the van all dirty. You just got to vacuum a little bit and you're done. I love my van. Anyway. Along with storing plastic and tarps and stuff like that, if you have a long power outage or something like that, you can your whole family huddle up in one room. And especially if you have emergency heat, which is it's another topic we're going to cover in a few weeks. But then you only have to heat one small room instead of trying to heat the whole house. So I recommend usually like the parents' bedroom because it's the biggest bedroom and it usually has the bathroom attached to it. And you can close off the one door, seal it off, put towels underneath it to help block the air if you need to. So you can have one small, like a buddy propane heater or something like that in there and keep that room warm. If you don't have access to a heater, and I've actually heard of several cases of people surviving in places like where they've had nasty storms in the winter and knocked out the heat. Took all their mattresses in the house and blankets and stuff and made like a giant pillow fort and mattress fort. And the whole family hung out in there. And then their body heats only have to heat that small area, and it's covered in insulation. I wouldn't recommend putting a heater in there though, unless you like being burnt alive. But that's it for your house basically. Let's go on to like bug out bags. So stuff that's great for bug out bags is tarps, tent. Our tarps are great. But you need to learn how to set up a tarp with ridge lines and staking it out. There are tons of YouTube videos, and I should make some videos doing that. That's my favorite way to camp, actually, is underneath tarps. But tents work great. The only problem with tents is they're big, they're bulky, they're heavy, they're hard to carry. Ponchos make great shelters. Dave Canterbury just released an awesome video on his YouTube channel on some some shelters using tent poles and like flexible fiberglass tent poles and ponchos. I'm gonna be trying that out, making my own videos. I think that's a great idea. And for your bug out bag, the rule of 3 is apply here, and not like the 3 minutes without air, 3 days without water. What that rule of 3? No, rule of 3. You need something to sleep on, so like a sleeping pad to insulate you from the ground, something to sleep in, sleeping bag, or a poncho liner, wool blanket, stuff like that. Something to sleep under. So that's your tarp, your tent, your poncho liner, something like that. So something insulated underneath you to insulate you from the ground, something around you to insulate you from the air, something on top of you to keep the wind from blowing on you and keep rain and snow off of you. And in the summer, to keep the sun off you. And also, approximately a third of the weight and bulk and size of your bug out bag should be shelter. And in that, I include clothes. And quite frankly, more than a third of my bug out bag. Maybe it's 2/3. 2/3. 2/3 of your bug out bag or your pack or whatever should be shelter stuff. And quite frankly, more than 2/3 of mine is. It's almost all clothing, shelter, stuff like that. Everything else is food and water. You don't really need much else. There's a few other odds and ends. We're going to go with my bug out bag later, but it's mostly the ability to stay warm in the summer, or stay warm in the winter and keep cool in the summer and stay dry. And for everyday carry, something you should throw in like car kits, everyday carry kits, those kind of things, are trash bags. You can use them to make shelters of all kinds. Again, there's YouTube videos on how to do it. You can make A-frame shelters. You can make browse beds, like by just stuffing them and laying on top of them. You can cut holes in them and use them as ponchos. You can lay them down on the ground when it's wet out before you change a flat tire. They're great to have around for shelter material. And also, if they're in your car, your everyday carry bag, they also make good trash bags. Something I forgot to put on my notes I'll need to add is having on your documentation package, which we haven't gotten to yet, but find hotels about an hour or so away from your house in various directions and get a handful of the phone numbers half an hour to an hour away. That way, in an emergency, if it's like hurricane evacuation or something like that, or a tornado comes through the area, if you can call that hotel and book the hotel before anybody else does, and then you get there and you have shelter and you don't have to live out your bug out bag, it's just like a small unplanned vacation. I know that's not cool survival preparedness guide stuff, but it's really practical and makes life easier. I'd rather have an easy, smooth survival emergency situation than prove how tough I am by living out of just my bug out bag when there's a hotel right next to a restaurant that I could just go have dinner and spend the night in the hotel. That sounds like a much nicer evening, especially when you're stressed out and your family's all stressed out because the house got hit by a tornado and flattened the house and you can't find Fluffy. Being able to go to dinner and spend the night in a hotel is much preferred over heating up an MRE and crawling underneath a poncho. So the homework for this week, for me and for you, is to get those numbers for those hotels within a half hour drive of your house in every direction. And then go around your house inside and out and make a list of everything that needs repaired that will make the house more livable. Like everything that needs repaired that is causing you to lose heat, lose cooling, or may damage the house in the long term, like replacing the roof, a crack in the foundation you may have, an uneven stair that may hurt somebody. Make a list of all those things. make a list of all the periodic inspections you need to do and put them on the calendar, like changing your air filters, draining your water heater, those kind of things. There's lists on the internet you can look up that tell you how often to do all the periodic maintenances of your house. Put those on your calendar. Put them on your Google Calendar so it yells at you and reminds you to do them. And make that list and then prioritize that list. So, and put it somewhere where you're going to see it. Don't just put it on a list on your phone and never look at it. Put that list somewhere you can see it and start making those repairs on things. It'll make everybody in the house happier, make you happier, it'll make the house more comfortable, and it'll help prevent emergencies and help you deal with emergencies if they do happen. Well, that's all I got for today. Hope you come back and join me next week when we talk about security. And no, it's not going to be about all gun stuff. And remember, we prepare today to prosper tomorrow.